All right, so get this.
Okay.
There's this whole thing going around online about chicken lamps.
Chicken lamps.
Yeah, like the heat lamps they use for chickens,
Mm-hmm.
but people are using them in their homes.
In their homes.
Yeah, like biohackers and people who follow Repeat.
Interesting.
They're saying these chicken lamps are like a cheap
Cheap.
way to get the benefits of red light therapy.
Oh, wow. So like a DIY health hack.
Exactly, and it's blowing up on X. You know what used to be Twitter?
I've seen that, yeah.
People are claiming all sorts of crazy benefits,
Like what?
like less joint pain, more energy, even better skin. So we're going to do a deep dive into this whole chicken lamp thing.
Sounds
See
fascinating.
what the science says and if it's actually worth all the hype.
All right, let's get into it.
First things first, what is red light therapy and why are people so into it?
Well, red light therapy, it's been studied for a while.
Okay.
And it's been shown to have some pretty amazing effects on the body.
Like what kind of effects?
Well, for one, it can boost collagen production.
Collagen, that's good for skin, right?
Exactly, helps with wrinkles and elasticity.
Oh, wow.
And it can improve blood circulation, which can speed up muscle recovery after workouts.
So athletes are into this stuff.
Definitely. And there's evidence that red light can even improve mitochondrial function.
And what are mitochondria again?
Those are like the powerhouses of our cells. They produce energy.
Right. I remember that from biology class.
So by boosting mitochondrial function, red light could potentially increase energy levels.
So that's why people are feeling more energetic.
It's possible.
And now these chicken lamps, people are saying they can do all that.
Well, it's not quite that simple.
Okay.
Chicken lamps, they do emit red light,
Uh-huh.
but it's not the same as using a dedicated red light therapy device.
What's the difference?
Well, those devices, they use specific wavelengths of light,
Okay.
and they're calibrated to deliver a precise dose.
So it's more targeted.
Right, whereas chicken lamps, they just emit a broad spectrum of light.
So you're not getting the same concentrated dose.
Exactly, and that's why I'm hesitant to say that chicken lamps are a true replacement for red light therapy.
Makes sense. But one of the sources we have actually says that high-powered incandescents are the best bang for your buck red light therapy device.
Interesting.
So they're definitely making a bold claim.
Yeah, and I can see why people would be drawn to that, especially if they're looking for a more affordable option.
For sure.
But we have to remember that even though high-powered incandescents emit more red light than regular bulbs, the spectrum is still pretty broad and uncontrolled.
So it's not as targeted or as potent as a dedicated device.
Exactly.
But hey, maybe something is better than nothing,
Perhaps.
especially when you consider the potential downsides of the lighting we're all using now.
You're talking about LEDs.
Yeah, LEDs, they're everywhere.
They are energy efficient, that's for sure.
But the sources we have, they raise some pretty big red flags about LEDs.
What kind of red flags?
Well, they talk about potential retinal damage from the blue light.
That's concerning.
And they say that blue light can mess with our sleep
Oh, yeah, that's the big one.
because it suppresses melatonin production.
Right, melatonin, that's the hormone that tells our bodies it's time to sleep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when we're exposed to too much blue light at night, it's like we're telling our brains to stay awake.
Yeah, it throws off our natural sleep-wake cycle.
And that can lead to all sorts of problems.
Absolutely. Insomnia, fatigue, mood swings, even more serious health issues down the line.
Yikes.
It's not something to take lightly.
So these chicken lamps, they're kind of like a throwback to a time before LEDs,
I guess you could say that.
when we were exposed to more red and infrared light.
Right, like from incandescent bulbs and, of course, the sun.
And some people are arguing that this shift to LED lighting might be contributing to some of the health problems we're seeing today.
It's a theory.
So maybe these chicken lamps, they're not just a quirky health hack.
Maybe.
Maybe they're a sign that we need to rethink our relationship with light.
That's an interesting perspective.
Like maybe we've gone too far in our quest for energy efficiency.
And forgotten about the other ways that light affects our bodies.
Exactly. And now we're turning to chicken coops for answers.
It's ironic, isn't it?
It is, but it's also fascinating.
Definitely. We've got a lot to unpack here.
We do. So let's dive in and see what else we can learn about this whole chicken lamp phenomenon.
All right, I'm ready. Yeah, it really makes you think, huh?
It does. Like maybe we haven't been giving light enough credit.
It's more than just something we flip on and off.
Right. It affects us in ways we're only beginning to understand.
And you mentioned the whole blue light thing earlier.
Yeah, it's a big concern.
Can you break that down for me a bit more?
From what I've read, blue light, it's a specific wavelength of light.
Okay.
And it's emitted by a lot of our modern devices like phones and computers.
And LEDs.
Exactly. And the problem is our bodies associate blue light with daytime.
So when we're exposed to it at night.
It messes with our natural sleep-wake cycle.
Right, because blue light, it suppresses the production of melatonin.
Melatonin, that's the hormone that makes us sleepy.
Exactly. So when we're bombarded with blue light at night,
Our bodies don't produce enough melatonin
and we have trouble falling asleep.
and staying asleep.
Exactly. And over time, this chronic sleep disruption, it can have some pretty serious consequences.
Like what?
Well, for starters, it can affect our mood, make us more irritable and anxious.
I can definitely relate to that.
And it can also impact our cognitive function, make it harder to focus and concentrate.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Like, I'm just not as sharp when I haven't slept well.
Exactly. And in the long term, chronic sleep deprivation has been linked to some pretty serious health issues.
Like, what kind of issues?
Well, things like heart disease, diabetes, even some types of cancer.
Wow, that's scary.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not something to take lightly.
So what can we do about it?
Well, one thing is to limit our exposure to blue light in the evening.
So, like, put away the phones and computers a couple hours before bed.
Exactly. And there are also apps and programs that can filter out blue light from our devices.
Oh, I've heard of those.
And another thing we can do is switch to warmer light sources in the evening.
Like incandescent bulbs.
Right, or even candles.
So those chicken lamps, they could actually be helpful in that sense.
Potentially, they do emit more red and infrared light and less blue light than LEDs.
Right, and those wavelengths, they're not as disruptive to our sleep.
Exactly. In fact, some studies suggest that exposure to red light in the evening can actually promote relaxation and improve sleep quality.
Interesting. So it's not just about avoiding blue light.
Right, it's also about getting the right kind of light at the right time.
Makes sense. So it's like a balancing act.
Exactly.
And speaking of balance, what about the ecological impact of all this?
That's an important consideration, too.
Look, LEDs, they're supposed to be good for the environment because they're energy efficient.
Right. But there are some concerns about the environmental impact of their production and disposal.
And what about the impact of light pollution?
That's a big one, especially with LEDs. They're so bright.
They are, and they can disrupt wildlife.
Exactly. Some animals, they rely on darkness for navigation and foraging.
And artificial light can interfere with those natural behaviors.
Right. It can also disrupt plant growth and even affect human health.
Wow. So it's a complex issue.
It is. There are trade-offs to consider with any type of lighting.
So we need to be mindful of both the benefits and the drawbacks.
Exactly. And make informed choices based on our individual needs and values.
All right, so we've talked about the science behind red light therapy, the potential downsides of blue light, and the ecological implications of different lighting choices.
It's a lot to digest.
It is, but it's all important information.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I think the key takeaway is that light matters.
More than we realize.
It affects our sleep, our mood, our health, even the environment.
So we need to be more aware of the light in our lives.
And make conscious choices about the type of light we expose ourselves to.
Especially in the evening.
So dimming the lights, using warmer light sources, limiting screen time.
Those are all good steps to take.
And if you're interested in trying out those chicken lamps,
just be sure to do your research and prioritize safety.
Always good advice.
And remember, it's not a magic bullet.
It's just one piece of the puzzle.
A puzzle that we're still trying to solve.
Exactly. But hey, that's what makes this deep dive so interesting.
It is. It's a journey of discovery.
And we're all in this together.
Trying to figure out how to live in harmony with light.
And with each other.
Exactly. Yeah.